Red Hand of Doom. Let's talk about Red Hand of Doom. I am basically just officially endorsing this. This is a third edition, 3.5, I think third edition. I don't remember. Somebody in chat will tell me. I can find out the year it came out. Nope, this product uses updated material from 3.5. So Red Hand of Doom was published sometime in the 2000s for 3.5, the revised third edition, print 2006. Yeah, so I could, just from that, I could have told you it was 3.5. And it's a big, thick adventure that takes characters and their players from 6th to 12th level. So it's a great mid-level adventure. It's huge from my point of view. And I think it is generally considered the best adventure from 3rd edition, one of the best adventures in the history of the game. Republic of Tim says, I am planning a campaign centering around hobgoblins. Do you think I should get Red Hand of Doom? It's all about hobgoblins. Red Hand of Doom, it is set in a place called Elsir Vale. Is there a map of Elsir Vale? I bet there is. I have run Red Hand of Doom, and I loved it. Yeah, this is not the easiest map in the world to read, but you can look up Elsir Vale, E-L-S-I-R Vale. It kind of sort of morphed into the points of light setting. Elsir Vale is a place that obviously you probably already have your own starting location. But if you don't, if you're just getting started with D&D, Elsir Vale is a great place to set your campaign. It's a kind of a points of light setting, little towns surrounded by wilderness, great opportunities for adventure. What did I call the area when I dropped it in my world? That's a good question. Where was this? I think this was like Northern Corwell. This is Northern Corwell around Gravesford. How sandboxy can this adventure be? Well, I think it's not very sandboxy at all. It is an adventure with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But getting from 1st to 6th level can be very sandboxy. That's typically what I do. In fact, this is where, if we had kept playing with the group before we started playing Night Below, if we had started with that group of Tom and Lars and Silvano and Jess, if we had kept playing with those guys, they would have gone into Red Hand of Doom. So Red Hand of Doom is set in Elsir Vale, and it's basically which is again a points of light setting, a bunch of small towns. There's one big town called Brindle, and Brindle's great. I've used Brindle several times. There's a map of Brindle in here. Look at this. Yeah, I'm doing a pretty good job finding. So this is a medium-sized town, small city, and it's great. I've used Brindle lots of times. It's no, you cannot use this. You cannot use Red Hand of Doom to get to 6th level. It assumes that you're either starting at 6th level, it doesn't assume that, or that you have been playing D&D with other adventures. Yeah, third edition is easy to convert. Actually, somebody was asking about the Stronghold rules and converting them, but this is a 3rd edition module, and I find all the editions are easy to convert to 5th. Convert, what does that mean when you say convert? I think it's a misleading term. I think we need a better term than convert, because I don't, when I look through an adventure like this, so in the back, we've got a bunch of stats for all the bad guys. Right? And so here is Tredora Goldenbrow, female Aasimar cleric, 8th level cleric of Pelor, and there's a whole bunch of nonsense in here, like, base attack bonus is +6. I think there's some expectation when we talk about converting modules from one edition to another that we're going to go through and use some sort of function, use the maths module from the Time Rider and plug in, what does a 10 touch AC mean? How do I convert 10 touch AC? How do I convert, a Fortitude 7, Reflex 2, Will 10 saving throws? How do I convert that? But you don't. You just make an 8th level cleric. Like, that's not. I think adapt may be a better word for it. Translate. We don't convert. I think there was an illusion with earlier editions, especially from 1st to 2nd edition. First edition to 2nd edition was such a small change, really mostly organizational stuff, that you could convert it. You could literally just apply, if you see this, change it to that. If you see this, change it to that. And that set this precedent and created this language for converting modules. But you don't convert a module like this. You just say, there's a gray ooze. There's a gray ooze. There's a bad guy here. Okay, let me convert this gray ooze. Okay, so this gray ooze has special action acid. It's got special quality ooze traits. What does an 11 fortitude save mean? And let me do some math and have a lookup table. No, you just grab a gray ooze. You don't worry about it. I do that all the time. And I don't really worry about power levels that much because, as you folks know, I don't really worry about balance that much. If it turns out that a gray ooze is tougher in 5th edition than it is in 3rd edition, then my players' heroism will be maximized, and they will be thankful for it. If it's in the other direction, then I'll give it more hit points or give it some cool special ability in the middle of playing. I'll go, oh wow, actually this thing is too weak in 5th edition, so let me tweak it as we're playing. That's what the Dungeon Master does. The thing I love about it is right there on the first page. Oh, it's the bad guy. Look, it's the bad guy of the whole adventure. Azar-Kul, Wormlord Azar-Kul. He's a hobgoblin. He's like a half dragon, half hobgoblin, right? So I hate when I have to go to the back of the adventure, which I often do, to find out who's the bad guy. Well, this should be, all adventures should begin with, who is the bad guy, or what do they want? Well, Azar-Kul wants to kind of take over. And this is one of the things I've learned playing with people younger than me, is that when they hear about a country, a duke, a bad guy, a villain, Azar-Kul, just wanting to expand their territory, take over, that seems weird to them. Why would they do that? Because that is not something that anyone in living memory has ever seen somebody do, except obviously Russia and Ukraine, right? If you're not paying attention to what happens over there, then you don't know about this. But expanding territory is a perfectly legitimate motivation for anyone. You don't need any reason to expand it, right? Except it keeps your army happy and healthy and provides a constant influx of resources, and that kind of, you have to be like a shark, right? Always swimming, always expanding. There's this feeling, Roman Empire, that if you stop, everything's going to collapse. That the thing that keeps the empire healthy, the thing that keeps this country healthy, is constant expansion. And so the bad guys, the Wormlord Azar-Kul, wanting to expand his territory out of the Wormcrest Mountains into the human lands, isn't necessarily because they hate humans, or it can just be, I want to keep my people happy, and in order to do that, we have to keep expanding. That's it. That's the explanation. So we get a little explanation of who Azar-Kul is and what he wants. And we start talking about, there are some battle mats they included. I don't have them here, but the battle mats that were included in the back are literally, they're not handouts or anything like that. They're literally just tactical maps. There's some really cool stuff in this adventure. We haven't even really started talking about it. We spent an hour already. I gotta go. We got 5 minutes. I'm gonna be done. No, we'll keep going. Don't worry. I'm not gonna let you down. Not in this instance, at least. So there's actually a really good synopsis. One of the things I love about this adventure is how well written it is from a what is going on point of view. A lot of adventures, old adventures, really old ones, new adventures, they want to spend 3 pages telling you the history of the area, right? I don't know why. I don't care. That's not relevant. Or if it's relevant, make it relevant in the adventure as it becomes relevant. This is that thing about about the difference between lore and writing. If this lore is important, then where does it show up in the book? And that's where, tell me what it is. So here we start by saying, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to start in the Witchwood. Witchwood, Night Rider. Sorry, that's a reference to a very old song by a band whose first 5 albums nobody listened to. And if you get that reference, then we are friends. So part 1, the Witchwood. The adventure begins when the player characters confront a powerful war band of raiders threatening the small town of Drellin's Ferry. Classic, right? You're 6th level, you're in this town, Drellin's Ferry. That's the only thing the DM has to do is get you to that town. And the interesting thing about this is, you can't save Drellin's Ferry. There's a giant army of hobgoblins coming. And you're only 6th level. But the adventure is about how you deal, what you learn about these hobgoblins and stopping them from murdering everybody, right? And getting the people of Drellin's Ferry to safety. Which is cool. It's super dramatic, right? That notion that whoa, holy crap, there's way too many. This is a very tiny town. Brindle is where we're all going to go, and we're going to defend Brindle. The Ruins of Rest. That's part 2. Something has cut off the old North Road, probably hobgoblins, in the vicinity of the Black Fens. The Black Fens is there. Yeah, we'll get to that. All this stuff is cool. None can flee by that route, so we're trying to get the people to safety, and we can't go the nice way. So we scout the swamp and seek answers to the question of who or what has cut off that road. The PCs encounter the reclusive owl-riding wild elves, known as the Tiri Kitor. I don't think I used those guys. I think I might have used the Green Order. I'm not sure. From them, the PCs learn that Wormlord Sarvith. So the great thing is that Azar Kul, the bad guy, has several different armies, several different like companies, each one of them led by a wormlord, which is great because they all have different character and personality. We go the Ruins of Rest, where we're basically this hobgoblin army has already wiped out a whole area and flooded it, and there's this great flooded castle. There's this is just and you have to explore that and figure out what the hell's going on. And then there's part 3, the Ghost Lord's Tower. Okay, you ready for something cool? Did I mention how much I love this adventure? Maximally, because the Ghost Lord Azar Kul brings a deadly new ally into battle. This is as it should be, right? Cool. He's been doing this for years. He's been building this army and gathering these allies. And so when it's time for, it's kind of like evil Gandalf, right? When it's time for him to go to war, all these guys come out of the woodwork. The Ghost Lord is a druid lich, which I think is awesome. And in fact, I think I made the Ghost Lord a fallen PC. There was a PC druid, and he fell in battle. And I think Azar Kul, or the dragon, maybe a dragon, turned him into a lich. And so part of the adventure was, my version of the Ghost Lord was they had an opportunity to unlich their former druid ally. And it was in, I didn't set it in, there's this great, the Ghost Lord's Tower is in a place called the Thorn Waste, which is this giant, I think it's something like this in World of Warcraft. Massive, as big as houses, vines and thorns growing through this area. And I changed that and made that the ruins of Cas Ananthanal. Cas Ananthanal was the capital city of the fire elementals, which in my game, those are the fire dwarves, the Aesir. Elementals in my game are dwarves. Just like, anyway, that blah, blah. Part 4, the enemy at the gates. This is the point at which the army is now, the players have fought all these skirmishes and learned all this stuff, and now the army is marching on Brindle, and they have to defend Brindle. And then part 5, the Fane of Tiamat, because Azar Kul is the bad guy. He's the villain of the piece, but he has his own plans, and they include summoning the Queen of Evil Dragons. So that's the red hand. It's like the five fingers of the hand are the... Can you please describe how this works as a drop-in to other adventures? Well, I can't explain it. You just do it, right? You run Lost Mine of Phandelver, and then you figure out, how does Lost Mine of Phandelver end? How does Red Hand of Doom begin? And then you just be a dungeon master and come up with a way to link them. Like make Phandelver Drellin's Ferry, or maybe Phandelver is Brindle. I don't know which. Yeah, I would say Black Gesso. If Black Gesso asks, is Red Hand of Doom a good example of how to write an adventure, how to lay one out? I mean, this is 192 pages, 126 pages, so it's a lot longer than a normal adventure. But they present the information in a very straightforward manner, and they give you, the dungeon master, what you need to know when you need to know it, which is super rare. So let's see. There's a list of character hooks, which is exactly what we need, right where we would want them. And it's, one of them includes, the Lord of Brindle hears rumors that gobhoblins and bobgoblins are allying and forming an army, and he hires you to go find out what's going on. Classic. There are other hooks in here that are less kind of generic, but they're all pretty cool. And then here's where we get to kind of some of the juice of this adventure. What's this thing here? What's this? It's the timeline of it. My camera zooms into my face, so if I want to show you text. There, yeah. This is a timeline of what happens with the army on what day. Right? This is the juice, ladies and gentlemen. Day 1, the PCs encounter the Marauders near Drellin Ferry, all the way to day 65, the Red Hand Horde, reinforced by infernal creatures. I think infernal is the best of the fernals. Attacks and destroys... no spoilers. Unless this has already happened, then this happens, and instead they crush the last human resistance inside Elsir Vale. So there are all these branches where, like, this is like the Lord of Brindle asks you to help, either because you just defeated the army and they want to go now attack the head, or they just lost and they're now retreating, which is great. So the adventure has a timeline, and in addition to playing the villains smart, by the way, there's a whole thing that's just close to my heart of how to make the villains reactive, right? So the villains get intelligence too. Every time the heroes fight the bad guys, if people get away, the bad guys get information. Here's the overview of Elsir Vale. So here's the map, and the map says here's what's going on here, and it includes all the different terrain types. So you have like great advice for what's the weather like. How hard is it to traverse different parts of the terrain? It's got Brindle, a small city, and this is third edition. Third edition did a really good job laying out stuff like the stats for cities and towns. Like, what's the alignment of this town? What's the max gold piece value of the? So you go like, oh, can you get plate mail here? Oh, nope, sorry. The most expensive thing in this town is this, so it doesn't have anything like. What percentage of this town is halfling? What percentage is of dwarf? 3% of the 8,400 people in Brindle. I don't know what that would be. Wouldn't 1% be 84? So 249 half orcs in Brindle. If my math is right on that, then I deserve a cookie. Who's in charge? The authority figures. This is just normal third edition stat block stuff. But they made towns and cities. They give them stat blocks, which I think is great. Still useful. Still awesome. A whole bunch of towns, small cities, sites of interest, the Black Fens. So huge write up. Great opportunity. Like if you knew you were going to run Red Hand of Doom, you would just start by reading this section and saying, okay, where am I going to put my against the Rult of the Keptile God? My headache's gone, by the way. It's because my brains are dribbling out my ears. Yeah, you get a little campaign setting here, right? Elsir Vale, which is more than enough information for you to run starting at first level. And you can start with Lost Mine of Flapdoodle, or Flangelhofen. You can start with Against the Cult of the Reptile God, or Village of Hamlet, or any of the, we've talked about other great low-level adventures. Major characters in this, here's the cast of characters. It's just really well designed information-wise. So, God, I want to run this now. Maybe we should screw the Chain of Minurus. Let's run Red Hand of Doom. Abathrax, High Red Dragon Advisor to Azar. Cool. I love the names of dragons in this adventure. And in fact, this is how dragons should be named. Balasantrax, right? In fact, isn't there so there's a couple of different Wormlords in here. And where's, Ozyrandian, the Green Dragon. So we haven't got to him yet. Stand by. So here's the first adventure. This is the adventure start, and here's the map of the road you're on when you get attacked by marauders. And there's a cool thing here where it has designer notes. Let's read the designer notes just to give you. This encounter has a high encounter level, CR, because we expect that the party won't fight again before they reach town. Therefore, it's going to be everyone going supernova, right? You know, like going nova means using all your abilities all in one go. But you should know that the encounter level is artificially high because of the large number of hobgoblin warriors. Low-level opponents don't really contribute a lot to the challenge. The Blade Bearer, Cleric, and Hellhounds are the true foes in this fight. We assume that the Hobgoblin regulars will land a couple of lucky shots, only to be taken out by a fireball or two. So how would I run this? You know how I'd run it. I would take that, and I would make the Hobgoblins. I would take this adventure from 3rd edition, running it in 5th edition, and steal minions from 4th edition, because minions are such a good mechanic, I don't know why they threw it out. We assume that the Hobgoblin regulars will land a couple of lucky shots, only to be taken out by a fireball or two. If your party doesn't include an arcane spellcaster who can throw area effect attack spells, you might need to cut down on the number of Hobgoblins to suit your player characters better. Good design, good advice. There's advice like this all through the adventure. Why did we make this encounter this way? How is it supposed to be played? Here's the setup for Drellin's Ferry. This is the first town that it's got, Drellin's Ferry is completely detailed. Here's the smithy, here's the inn. Every time somebody posts RHOD in chat, which is an abbreviation for Red Hand of Doom, I think of Ruby Rod! But that's not what they mean. Are we green? Super green. Corbin, my man. This ain't right. This ain't me. Here are the important people in the town. So not only do you get the important people of Brindle later on, which is the main city that everybody flocks to when the Hobgoblin army, you get the main people of just this small town. They do all your work for you to make it plausible. I hate adventures or campaign settings, Forgotten Realms, where you look at the map and you're like, this is a nice map, but who's in charge? What is this place? Is it a county? Is it a barony? Is it a duchy? Who's in charge? Is it a protectorate? Is it a hegemony? What is it? And they're like, whoa, it's just a bunch of cool lines we drew on the map. Random encounters in the Witchwood. Sorry. Vrath Keep. Okay, this is a ruined keep. Listen, by the way, great opportunity. 6th level, about the right level. 5th to 7th is, I think, where it should happen. You restore this thing, and now you have your own stronghold, and you didn't have to pay full price for it because you're restoring an old stronghold. Vrath Keep. You probably won't call it your own thing. There's a Manticore you get to fight. A whole bunch of encounters. So this first section is just fighting Wormlord Koth and his army as they attack Drellin's Ferry and trying to. And there's this is Can you see this? Let's see if we got. Let's get close on my face. Hello, hello, everybody. We have to focus in on my face. That's what the camera knows. The camera doesn't know to focus in on this. It only knows to focus in on me. So if I want you guys to be able to see this, I gotta put it up close. But this is the bad guys map of the area. It's got their notes on it. Like it's got like hobgoblin notes. Good plunder? Question mark. And it has day 1, day 2, day 3. So you get this map and you figure out what their plan is. Attack day 5. Can we use the dwarf bridge? And there's a note on here that says Ghost Lord pointing down. So if the players get this map, they're like, Ghost Lord? What's a Ghost Lord? Do we have to fight a Ghost Lord? So I love this map. So Wormlord Koth is the dude. Is this the one where there's a Old Workelnaw? Encounter H. Old Workelnaw. Once the site of a forest giant fortress, this ruined building now serves as the home for one lonely, slightly deranged old forest giant named Workelnaw. So that's I love that. And here is the epic battle. I believe is the end of this. This is a bridge across Skull Gorge. That's this thing here. This is Skull Gorge, and this is the bridge across Skull Gorge. Therefore, this is Skull Gore Bridge. And this was an epic battle in my campaign where ultimately the players realized there was nothing they could do. The bad guys have not only an army, and they're trying to cross this bridge. And if they cross the bridge, then the people of Drellin's Ferry are going to die. There's not going to be an opportunity to save them. There's not enough time. And my friend Craig, playing the monk Domhnall, stood on the bridge and told the players to run. And they blew up the bridge. I don't remember where they got the explosives from. What was that noise? I think I'm leaking. Does it say that? Does it say flesh to stone is an opportunity to get rid of the bridge? That might be what they do. Using magic against the bridge, yeah. So you can. There's Ozyrandian, the green dragon that they summon, and so my friend Craig sacrificed himself so the players could survive, get back to town, evacuate the people of Drellin's Ferry, and then I had the bad guy. I think I might have been actually Azar Cool. I might have had him show up. I had him resurrect Domhnall the monk, and now he was a vampire, and I love that. I love using the players' dead PCs against them. Here's a beautiful, just a beautiful piece of art of what Skull Gorge Bridge looks like. So that is the basically the final battle of book 1, part 1, the massacre at Drellin's Ferry. And here's what Drellin's Ferry looks like afterwards. Right, there's bad guys running around. So look, here are those dudes. Here are those guys we were talking about earlier. The owl riding wild elves. I should totally. Why didn't I use those guys? I should have bagged those guys. You know what? I think I might have taken a branch at this part, as I often do in my adventures. So there's at some point. Whoa! What's happening here? That dude is having a bad day. That half orc is fighting a Drider. It looks like that half orc is having a bad problem, and he will not be going to space today. So now we're exploring the Black Fens, the Ruins of Rest, trying to figure out what the Hobgoblin folks are up to. I believe there's a castle in here somewhere. Starsong Hill. The Tiri Kitor have numerous encampments in the Black Fens. These are the elves, most of which contain only a dozen or so tents or tree platforms and serve as home for 30 to 40 wild elves. So this looks like a wild elf encampment. Yep. So this is where we meet and hang out with the wild elves here. And here's a wild elf, Tralara Nightshadow, grieving for her murdered brother, vows vengeance against the Red Hand. I think I called them the Pale Maw. I don't think I called them the Red Hand too. The Ruins of Rest, the proud city of Rest. This is it. This is the flooded town that is this section of the adventure. We're like halfway through this, by the way. Today, much of Rest is underwater. And you explore this trying to figure out what's going on. I think you find where the green dragon eggs are. Lizard folk, yep. There's a whole bunch of sunken water, like you need a boat to get around. And then all these buildings that were once on land, now only the tops of them are sticking out, and the hobgoblins are using them as their... Yeah, here's Wormlord Sarvith. He's a goblin. He's a goblin ranger. He's a badass, as I remember. Yep, there's the so they're breeding these half dragon men in the ruins of rest, and so that's which is awesome, and that's so there's this whole other plot you're unlocking. The Red Hand's secret weapon. This hatchery of dragon spawn could bring the horde devastating reinforcements. That's this guy. That's your job is to stop that stuff. So we're a substantive percentage of the way through this adventure. I don't know what you folks think. Woo! You get to fight a black dragon. Lots of dragons. Lots of dragons. Look at him. Like that is a great piece of art, by the way. As this black dragon sprays acid all over this guy and basically melts him. Look, I can see his spine. Juvenile black dragon. I've got a great mini for that guy. Regiarix gives his acid bath treatment to a hapless intruder who got too close to the dragon's lair. So here's where you find the phylactery of the Ghost Lord, which gives you an opportunity. It means it's now possible for you to... Oh, here you can see my notes. This is you probably can't read this, but it talks about the Brock, the Badgermen in my setting, who the players can get as allies. I think I might have replaced the elves with the Brock. Who is the Ghost Lord? Where is the Ghost Lord? These are good questions to ask. We're going to travel to the Thorn Waste, and we're going to confront this ally of the bad guys, this evil druid. And we're going to go to his lair, and here's a nice map of his lair. And the Thorn Waste is this, like I said, this overgrown... It's because it's an ancient evil druid. Ancient evil druid lich lives here, and so he's corrupted the landscape, right? So it's not green and verdant. It's not a green and pleasant land. It's all just thorns. So it looks like you fight a dragon again. Yeah. Oh, actually, it looks like a Behir. There's the half fiend Behir Varanthian. So let's take a look at the half fiend, half demon Behir. That's awesome. Works for the Ghost Lord. Works for the evil druid. I'm not sure why you fight the evil druid other than he's an ally of the... you found his phylactery, I think, and he's one wing of the army, and if you don't stop him, he's going to overrun everything. Here's one of the Worm Lords. Worm ladies. Worm Lord Uluai Stormcaller. The Pool of Rebirth. This chamber is the sanctum of the Ghost Lord's lair, the place where the Lich brings his chosen lions for transformation. He changes the lions into something crazy. Oh, here we go. Do you want to know what a Druid Lich looks like? He looks like this dude. Look at that. Pretty cool. Let's see. Concluding part 3. Oh, and here we can see this is a bar. We deal with the Druid Lich, and now we're off to Brindle and to try to stop the army from destroying it. And you can see I had a bunch of notes here. I wish the Green Order was here. It's a note I wrote. So that tells you something about. I changed all the names. It's the Duchy of Giles. And then this is the map of Brindle, which we talked about. I'm actually sort of losing my voice. I apologize. But we haven't yet gotten to the thing that I like. There's like a whole... Where is it? There was a whole system in here for... here we go. Yeah, here we go. Victory points. So, victory, if the PC... So this is the Battle of Brindle, right? Where the army is attacking Brindle. Obviously, you're 5 or 6 characters. You can't be everywhere. But there's victory, or defeat. And victory or defeat depends upon how many victory points you scored. And victory points are based on plot points you've accumulated. And so there's all throughout the adventure. It's like if the players do this, if the players do this, if they stop this from happening. So they can be getting loot and killing bad guys, but there are certain plot points that if they succeed at, the Battle of Brindle is different. So it's like almost like every encounter is an element in a big skill challenge, right? Every chapter, every fight is contributing to what is the outcome of the Battle of Brindle. So for instance, there are 8 commanders, 4 Worm Lords and 4 dragons. We've talked about a lot of them, right? Ozyrandius, the Green Dragon, Worm Lord, Sarvith. There are 8 commanders, 4 Worm Lords, 4 dragons, that the PCs can take down during parts 1 to 4. Each of these commanders slain or captured grants corresponding victory points. Wormlord Karn, Wormlord Stormcaller, Ozyrandium, Regiarix, And that determines whether or not so in other words, how strong is the army at the end? Well, if the players have failed to kill these guys, if they escaped, or the players had to retreat, then Brindle is going to fall because the army has all its commanders. But if the players have done a good job, eliminating these threats, then Brindle doesn't fall. They've saved the town. And then we go, the army, either the army retreats or the army retreats, in which case we have to chase them to their lair, basically. Or we're retreating, in which case our only hope is to cut off the enemy's head. If you understand, you gotta find out who's in charge and kill them. Excuse me. Apparently I'm swallowing a lot of air. One of these days I'll learn how to talk. And so that leads us to the final part, the Fane of Tiamat, which we're either going to have to go to in order to kill the bad guy because we're all retreating, and if we don't kill the bad guy who runs this army, then it's the end of the human race. Or we've won, in which case we're chasing him down to his lair, right? So, which is great. Either way, you end up going to the same place. Somebody asks, in a big war scenario like Red Hand of Doom, how do you handle other NPCs, possibly higher level, dealing with the problem or not getting involved? Well, I mean, it depends on the nature of those NPCs. Either they're not around because they're busy dealing with the things that the players are going to be fighting and handling after 12th level, or they're, I had, when I ran, the Village of Hamlet has a relatively high level wizard, Burn, in town. He's got his own tower, and what I did when I needed him to be out of the picture, because otherwise the players would be wondering, why isn't he taking care of the stuff? Why are we taking care of it? Is, I had Ajax the Invincible had the Hawk Lords came and grabbed Burn and took him away to Fantasy Guantanamo, and he was abducted and not in the picture anymore. He's neutralized, and that sent a message to the player characters. So you have to be inventive. So this is, now we go to the Fane of Tiamat. Here's the map of the upper Fane. It zooms in. It does it. In the absence of my face, it will zoom in on the page. There's a bunch of dragons. Look at this. This is our good friend, the Bone Devil, that I recognize. I tell you, one of my all-time favorite characters, Antony DeVries, who was a duke and a landed noble, and had the Shield of Arthedain, and had Crusader, Holy Avenger, +5 Holy Avenger Crusader, that had all sorts of cool abilities, was an intelligent sword, died because we were fighting 4 pit fiends, and each pit fiend had limited wish. So when there was only one pit fiend left, he would cast limited wish and wish his 3 buddies were still alive. So 4 became 16, basically. That was, and ultimately we died. We lost that battle. That character's dead. So there's a bunch of, what's this? Here's High Wormlord Azir-Kul and his Aranis seek to bring all of El Surveil under the rule of the Red Hand. So there's the bad guy looking resplendent in his finery. Quite a nice piece of art, actually. We fight the High Wormlord in the Fane of Tiamat, and then we go to the summoning room, and if he fails, actually if he dies, it doesn't matter. There's a great thing I read. Let's see if I can find it. Where if you defeat him, he calls out to Tiamat, and his call is answered, it says. And that's when the aspect of Tiamat shows up in the summoning room to defend her loyal servant. So that's Red Hand of Doom. There's a whole bunch of stats in here for bad guys and NPCs, including, stuff like stuff that you would use that's in the back of the monster manual, militia and stuff like that. But also lots of cool bad guys and named NPCs. And they do a really good job of presenting El Surveil as a rich place with, you go to Drellin, you don't visit every single town there. You could, but there's not detail for all of them. There's only detail for the one you visit. And so you're here in Drellin Ferry, and it seems like, this is a really well put together place. And then you end up at Brindle, and they have all that same level of detail, but it's a much larger place. So it really makes you feel like it's a living world. But I think that's it. So Red Hand of Doom is rightly considered one of the best adventures for D&D. There's a lot of, if you go online, there's a lot of best adventures for Dungeons & Dragons. Top 20 adventures for Dungeons & Dragons. Most of them are terrible. Most of those adventures are badly written, hard to run. You end up having to do just a ton of work to have it make any sense. They often list Temple of Elemental Evil, which is a terrible adventure. It's almost unrunnable without you doing a colossal amount of work. And meanwhile, it doesn't list really well-designed adventures that people played a lot but weren't famous. Like Against the Cult of the Reptile God is often not on there. Red Hand of Doom is often not on there. But each edition has its own kind of classic. Like second edition, I think Night Blow is probably the best of the second edition adventures. I think fourth edition, the what was the one with the Iron Circle, the Mercenaries of the Iron Circle? That was a really good adventure. So, so I think it would be fun to do more. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this, by the way, is that having now done that, I can start doing some more work on the backgrounds video, because I would like to present the like how to use backgrounds to hook your players and get them involved in the adventure, and use kind of Red Hand of Doom as the adventure in question. Wow, I'm really need more water. Yeah, Reavers of Harkenwold was really good. Maybe Steve Voss, maybe Night Below next week. I really hated Horde of the Dragon Queen in 5e. Yeah, I mean, I think that it was like with the first adventure, and I don't think they had worked their stuff out yet. A lot of people, I haven't run it, I don't know, but a lot of people were unhappy with the way that adventure started. Desert of Desolation I played through, did not like. Thought it was badly designed. In fact, I was on a mailing list with Gary Gygax, and he said that, was it Troll Lord Games? Someone was doing an adventure, he said, that was basically this plus Desert of Desolation. And I was like, oh, so it's non-stop slaughter and there's no magic. And he responded and laughed. He goes, yeah, that's about right. So yeah, Desert Desolation I did not have, but again, I didn't run it, I played it. And one of the things when you play an adventure, you never really know how much of this is the printed adventure and how much of this is the Dungeon Master. Like the first adventure I ever played through, the Chateau d'Amberville, the Castle Amber, which is a crazy, weird, sort of a funhouse dungeon. I had a blast playing. It was amazing. Lots of weird puzzles and stuff. And then I bought it years later and read it, and our Dungeon Master changed a lot and didn't use a lot. If he had used that whole adventure, it would have been even weirder, because it takes place in like a pocket dimension. So, I mean, Game Guy 415, pick it up, and if you like it, run it. But who knows why I didn't like Desert of Desolation. It might have been because of our Dungeon Master, or it might have been because of the adventure. Or it could be like baseball, where sometimes good teams lose and bad teams win. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's alchemical. So I think that's it, folks. We talked about the stream. You got to see the Time Rider running, and people seem to get a kick out of that. Did I ever meet Gary Gygax personally? I don't think so. I was at several Gen Cons he was at. I was at a Gen Con, and I went to go look. I was at a... I went to buy some old adventures. And I went to on the dealer floor. There was like one place, and I was looking through adventures and talking to the guys behind, and I realized this is like that's Tim Kask. That's Frank Metzner. That's like it was all these old school D&D designers, and Gary might have been there. I don't remember. This would have been like 1997, 1998. You'd think I would remember, but back then I wasn't paying attention to stuff like that. I was not in that. I was not in the D&D world anymore back then. I was in other RPGs and other games. Kind of odd coffee, but any thoughts on viewers criticizing Liam's spell choices? I don't think anybody's in a position to criticize Liam's spell choices. They may not like it, but that's not the same. And I don't care. I have no interest whatsoever. And I saw somebody actually call Liam out on his use of German, and I was like, bro, his character's not from Germany. Relax. But there's that thing where people can't, even though they're like, oh, that's not right, he didn't do it right, they can't just have that thought. They're then compelled to then, and they can't resist. They physically are unable to stop themselves from commenting. It's like, come on. So yeah. What is the stream is the stream. What can be done? It's from Amok Time, when Bones complains that Kirk can't be expected to fight Spock fairly because they're on Vulcan, which has a very thin atmosphere. And T'Pol says, the air is the air. What can be done? So we call them nutters. So I think that's it, folks. I got my Stream Deck working, which one of the things I bought for the live stream. It was very effective. So this was the way we were able to show off the concept art for and nice transitions and stuff, which I was happy with. Concept art for the thing. And you got to check out the Time Rider. You're going to lose my audio for a second. Yeah, I was pretty happy with how this stream went in general. I'll take a look and see if putting it up on YouTube is a good idea. I might edit out some of the people complaining about the audio in the beginning because it was kind of ridiculous. But I'll do better next time. I did a lot of testing to see if all that stuff would work, and I didn't check the audio. Also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, last time we streamed, I had to use my webcam because none of this was working, and I don't know what happened. I had to basically plugging and unplugging the HDMI cable eventually made it work. after uninstalling and reinstalling everything, which was a pain in the ass. So I spent a lot of time actually getting ready for the stream. Failed to properly adjudicate the audio levels. I'll do better next time. I think that's it, folks. I think we're going to stop. I don't know when the next video is going to be, only because I've been spending a lot of time working on the Kickstarter. That's where my spare time is going right now, but I'm hoping it's going to launch next week. Everybody, cross your fingers. The rule is, the more money the Kickstarter generates, the more I can make content for you folks. So, everybody cross your fingers. I think that's it. We will probably stream next week. I want to do this regularly. I streamed like 2 or 3 Saturdays in a row, and everyone just assumed we're streaming on Saturdays from now on. And I hadn't planned on doing that, but it's not bad. I don't mind. It's fun. I like hanging out and talking with you folks, and people ask good questions. So until at least next Saturday, if not, probably the Kickstarter will hopefully the next time we see each other will be the Kickstarter video. Remember, !Kickstarter, you'll get a link to the MCDM Productions, where you can give us your email and you will not miss the launch of the Kickstarter. Who knows how well that'll work? We're all going to find out. We'll all find out together soon. What happens if I hit the stream button? Will it stop streaming? Peace out.